Hello, everybody. We are here on another episode of Split Happens. My name is Kelly, and I am owner of K Collections Photography, where I put an emphasis on boudoir and empowerment sessions for women to help find themselves behind my lens. We're down to just two amazing people because Donna had the audacity to go on summer vacation this week. But I am still joined by my buddy, Jess Maloney. And go ahead and finish your intro, girl.
Yeah, I'm Jessica Maloney, licensed mental health counselor and business coach for audacious female entrepreneurs, helping them become highly sought after and highly paid. And just the idea of like what we're doing here and the idea of working with women and helping them to just advance and see themselves in a different way, I think is such a crucial part of our conversation. And obviously,
100%.
like there's the other side with men doing the same thing for themselves.
Yeah.
But as women, I think we can identify a little bit more with that side of things. And I just love that there's this conversation happening about how women help themselves through challenging situations.
Ironically, it's funny. I didn't mention this to you before we started recording, but we'll talk about it while we're recording. I recently, last night, just posted, I don't even know if you saw it, from our last podcast where we talked about prenups. And a man chimed in and he commented and he said, it's very important for men to have a prenup. And I was like, wait a second.
Oh boy.
Wait a second. And the only reason why I'm mentioning that is that because we are not exclusive to just women or just men when we speak. We feel that support, empowerment, finding yourself, building your foundation throughout the process is very important, regardless of whether or not you are the woman or the man. And while we're on the topic, I'm very excited to say that we will have attorney James Orlando coming in very soon. We actually did a segment at the radio station with him and Anna Maria. And he's going to come in and he's opening up his time and his expertise and his legal knowledge to answer your legal questions. So stay tuned. But I digress. What I want to actually talk about today is something very specific to what it is that we exactly do, right? So the three of us come to the table. We talk about, our passion. We're shooting it, right? But we're not necessarily tying together what it is that we do and why we feel what we do is important throughout the process. So I want to go ahead and delve a little bit into what you do today, Jess, as a mental health counselor, and how that's imperative, important, and really just life-changing throughout the divorce process, doing what you do. So just reiterate what it is that you do and why it's important throughout that process.
Yeah, absolutely. So one side of my business is I am a licensed mental health counselor and nationally certified counselor. I have a private practice based in Smithtown, and it's pretty much traditional mental health counseling, talk therapy. And therapy is something that I've always been an advocate for since I was a kid, honestly. Like my mom threw me into therapy when I was younger because all of her problems were my problems, and that's a whole story for another time.
Wow. So this has been a lifestyle for you since you're a child. You were put on to mental health from a very young age.
Yeah. And it was, back then, it was something that was very highly stigmatized, and it was not something that was like okay or normal or encouraged. And I'm so glad that things have changed so much. But the reason I had gone into mental health and wanted to be a therapist was because of my own experiences in my own mental health struggles, especially in high school. Like I went through a lot of depression, anxiety, friendship issues, self-esteem issues. I mean, you name it. Silently struggling with ADHD and probably a few other things. But I actually had a really great guidance counselor who has since passed. But
we never forget those special people in our childhoods, right?
Yeah, he really just kind of was like there for me in a way that like I had never experienced. I could get emotional. But sometimes we don't know we need that until we have it. And that's why like one of the reasons that, regardless of what you think about therapy, having somebody who you can just talk to, who is unbiased, who kind of gets it. And like we were talking earlier before you got here, I'm like, sometimes you have to shop around for that person, and that's okay.
100%.
Just because they're a professional doesn't mean that they're automatically the right one for you. So feel free to interview some and explore that. But having somebody who you can talk to, who is unbiased, that gets it, that can relate to you, that can give you insight, and maybe not advice, because we're not really supposed to be giving advice, but we give you insight into how things really are.
Sure.
Reflect back to you the things that you're already saying and doing that you probably already know the answers to, and you're just scared to admit it sometimes.
It's an emotional third party outside of yourself that has no emotional investment in what you're going through, that's literally listening to it with some expertise backing them up. Now, I don't know where you stand on the term cognitive behavior therapy, right? Because after I had my first son, probably had a lot to do with the marriage I was in. I had suffered really bad anxiety after my first son. And I actually learned, I took this program. Her name was like Lucinda Bassett. I don't know if we could say that on air, if we need to give her credit, but whatever. And I remembered, and I'm not against medication, but I was very determined to try and rewire my brain. And I mean, this is going back like 20 years. I was put onto this whole concept of cognitive behavior therapy. So I think it's very important going throughout therapy is, or throughout your divorce, through the therapy, is retraining your perspective on yourself, on your future, on your foundation, on all the things that we've talked about up to this point. So I'm sure these are all things that you support your clients in doing.
Sure. Yeah. And I'm a big advocate of cognitive behavioral therapy. It's a big foundation, big like theoretically like based treatment that I provide. And it's something that I also bring in some of the other side of my business, which is the business coaching, and really helping the women that I work with on that side understand the psychological components of what CBT really is. And it's, if you can change the way you think, you can change the way you feel and the way that you behave.
I love that.
Right. And you think about it as like a triangle, right? Like there's this trifecta. And if you alter one, the other two will automatically change. Right. So if you change the way you think, you'll change the way you feel and the way that you behave. If you change the way that you behave, you can change the way that you think and the way that you feel.
And also what you attract in this life on all different levels.
Like, right. I mean, that's a whole nother conversation on like magnetism and like who you are. But essentially when you're going through a divorce, regardless of who started it or why it's happening, not to be dramatic, but you're going through an identity crisis.
It's the time to rediscover yourself. Really, it's exciting at the same time because you get to choose who you want to become. You get to choose all the old habits and the ugly. Once again, we've talked about this as well. All the ugliness that maybe you didn't enjoy about yourself that relationship brought out in you that maybe did habitually become a little bit of who you were. I know I was operating in a very high anxiety place probably for 20 years. I could be a little short. I could, but it's because I was anxious and I was not in a good situation. So you get the choice now, right, to pause. And that's been a big thing for me. And I don't know if you would agree as the mental health counselor, it's almost, you have to practice that cognitive behavior. It doesn't just happen because you're literally training your brain to now fire. It's a science, and correct me if I'm wrong, to fire in a different direction. So if you want to maybe even talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. Well, the way I explain it to my clients is like, if you think of a mountain, right? And there's a stream coming down a mountain, right? Like that stream has been carved over hundreds of years and the water has just slowly eroded this particular stream for decades.
Okay.
Right. And you're like, I want the stream to go a different way. I want to start thinking differently.
Close the dam.
Right. But before you do that, because then the water has nowhere to go and you're going to be drowning on the top of this mountain.
Okay. We don't want to close the dam. Okay.
But you start digging on the other side, right? Like you start like, I want the stream to go to the opposite side. So you start carving out. And like, if you dig in the sand and then the water comes in, it just like, it fills it back up. So you start carving out the other side of the mountain. And like, once the water starts flowing, it's going to start kind of caving in a little bit. It's going to be so frustrating. You're like, but I want to make this, right? I want to think differently. I want to do differently, but the same patterns keep happening. It keeps caving in on me. And some people are going to be like, screw it. I give up. Let's just stay in this stream of
I would say majority of people probably do that. Exactly that.
Right. Or they start digging and you're halfway down and you're like, this is too much. Like, I give up. So like sometimes you think better, but other times it's just kind of like, it's what you know, right? Because that's where the water, the thoughts, the behaviors are going to naturally go. It's familiarity, right? So like when you're carving out a new line of thinking or a new behavior or a new feeling that you want to have most often, you have to continuously nurture this. Okay. Maybe not for the same decades that it took to create that stream, but it has to then become something that flows naturally so that now you have two streams that are open.
Okay.
Right. And then the more you keep carving the new stream, the deeper it gets, and it's going to call the water to that side. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And then you don't really recognize everything that's on the other side of the stream or the river
Eventually,
or the mountain.
it will just kind of trickle down that side.
Right.
It never closes. It never
doesn't.
goes away.
You always have the ability to go visit it if you want, is what you're saying.
Well, nobody wants to, but like sometimes if like there's a lot of water, it's going to go down both sides.
Oh, okay. I like this a lot, Jess. A whole lot. This is very cool. Okay.
Because the idea of like reinventing yourself, like the other stuff doesn't go away. Like I like to think of myself as like the queen of reinvention. Like I have reinvented myself so many times. And like it's something that, you can't get taught that in school. Right. So it's something that I can bring into both sides of my businesses to teach the things that I've learned in school. Sure. Also with the way that I have executed them.
Okay.
Because the version of me from high school who was depressed and anxious and scared of everything, like I decided when I went to college, I was like, I'm going to reinvent myself. I'm going to be more outgoing. I'm going to
I did that when I turned 40.
I didn't want people to know who I was. And so they didn't. And I left and I was like, I'm done. I'm out of here. But like, that peace, the anxiety and the depression that I live with, it's not going to go away. And sometimes it's going to come back and it's going to rear its ugly head. It's not about getting rid of these things. Everyone wants to get rid of them. I just want to go back to this, or I just want to be this. Okay, it's not going to go away, but when you learn to manage it, when you create that other stream and that becomes your new norm because you've worked for it, then you can have both and you can learn to manage the stress of the anxiety poking its head and what you can do with it to help yourself through it while you are kind of redirecting the thoughts.
Let's really like tap into it. I want to act almost like I'm in one of your sessions. Define manage. Is that like constant self-talk? Is that a pause? What does the air quote word manage, right? Because sometimes when people are speaking, I'm like, manage, okay, great. Like, what does manage?
What do you want to do?
But how? Am I talking to myself all day? What does manage literally? Does it mean journaling? Like, what is the one thing that you would recommend to a client that comes to you? Mostly, we'll just use divorce since we're on the topic through our podcast. What would you recommend to them to air quote manage building that other side of the dam for themselves?
Well, I mean, it's a loaded question, right? Because for everybody, it's going to be different.
Okay.
But you asked me if there was one thing. And if there was one thing, and like, we're just having this conversation now, and I'm feeling really like
pumped.
Yes, because if there was one thing that I could tell anybody, it would be think about who it is that you want to become.
Okay.
How he or she behaves, how he or she carries themselves, how he or she operates. And like have such a clear vision of who that is. And then when you feel like you're stuck in something, think about how they would do it. Think about who it is that you're becoming. Yeah. Because when you get stuck in the past or these old patterns, that's your old self. And it's just kind of like, hey, I'm still here. And you're like, shut up.
Sometimes I know because I've done this and I've done this very strongly. And I do just want to say, if I may just tie it into like the business aspect of things that you do. I've sat in plenty of your like masterminds and meets and you tie that also into who you want to become as a business owner. So I will say it's very powerful to hear that once you heal on a personal level, you can apply this to any different type of person, because there's different versions of you in life. There's the mom you, there's the relationship you, there's the business you, there's the employee you if you don't own a business. So it's very cool to hear that this is applicable through anything you really want to do in life. And I love that so much.
I call it a foundational building block of your success.
It's really cool. And I will say, I feel that I've tapped into this a little bit myself. And sometimes you feel like an imposter. And it feels silly. And you feel like you're only kidding yourself.
Yeah,
and
who am I?
Your ex might chime in and jump in and be like, that's not who she really is. And I'm like, well, nope, that's not the version of me.
I got stories about that.
I'm just waiting for like my ex to chime in one day and be like, yeah, okay. And I could probably say the same, like who his new person may view him as is not who I got. So don't believe that you are who you were with your ex if it was mostly not who you wanted to be. Does that make sense?
Yes. Well, I think what you're saying, and correct me if I'm wrong.
No, yeah, break it down, Jess, because I'm all over.
No. But it ties in just so perfectly with this concept of like, what we're talking about, digging out the other side of the mountain and evolving and figuring out who you want to be, like through that process, you're going to have to leave some people behind.
Yeah.
And it's probably some of the people that have told you that you can't do it or you shouldn't or that's too much or whatever.
And there's a lot of people, and I hear these stories. I'm on like these mom groups and single parent groups, and you hear of these people who are like, I have a whole group of friends that like, left me behind and, maybe sided, air quote, with my ex. And maybe that's not a loss to whoever is listening and may feel that way. Maybe you're like shining too bright or shining too differently outside of who you used to be. And it's not a bad thing. I think a lot of people get stuck in the sadness of that. And that's definitely a part of divorce that people mourn as well. So keep that in mind if you're listening.
For sure. And maybe some of you can relate to this as well. Like through my marriage and the relationship as a whole, like I was very isolated.
Okay.
Because of a lot of the things that had taken place and who he was. And I remember like when we were still cohabitating after, the divorce was kind of started, at that point, when I started my divorce is also when I started my coaching business because I knew I wanted to be able to help women in particular in a different way, in a larger capacity. And shortly after that, I had met Les Brown online on the internet.
I know you love him. Yeah.
He's phenomenal. And it was really cool. I'd never heard of him at that point. If you don't know who he is, he's an incredible motivational speaker. Look him up on YouTube.
Okay.
But I had met him on like in Clubhouse. I don't know if you remember Clubhouse. It was like during COVID. It was like this viral app, and it was like just a talking.
No, I was on 8 o'clock shot the entire time. It was a big Long Island group where everyone would take a shot together virtually at 8 o'clock. Like,
oh my god,
and it's still so active. Shout out 8 o'clock shot.
Wow.
Yeah.
No, I was on Clubhouse and I met Les Brown, and he was talking about his program, and I was like, oh wow, that sounds so cool. Like. And me, the little anxious, depressed girl from high school, like who didn't want to be seen at all. And I was like, maybe I'll become a motivational speaker.
Look at you, girl.
So I had told my ex, again, as we were just kind of cohabitating, trying to keep the peace. I was like, oh, so I found this thing and I think I'm going to sign up
let
for
me
this
guess how
group
that went.
and, try to learn how to become a speaker. And he goes, why? You've never done anything inspirational.
Yes, I've had my ex tell me
like,
that.
Here, Les, take my money.
My entire business is all because of him. I'm like, really?
Oh God.
Oh yeah. Well, that is a sure indication that you do not have the right partner when they cannot support you. I even have weird moments in my current relationship where I'm like, you're supporting me. This is uncomfortable. Like, really? Like, oh, this is really what it's supposed to be like. How freaking amazing, But Jess, I want to say thank you so much for just tying in, like I said, we sit at this table every week and we talk about what we've been through and we speak on our expertise, but we never really dive into what it is that we exactly do and how it can relate to benefiting you throughout the divorce process, specifically on Split Happens. So once again, just let anybody listening know how they can find you and just remind them that you are available for counseling services throughout the divorce process.
For sure. Yeah. You can find us all on splithappensli.com. But if you want to reach out more particularly for counseling services or just to inquire about working with me, you can find me at mindbodystrength.org.
I love that. And I do just want to remind our amazing listeners that this segment is brought to you by Balanced Health and Wellness. They have an amazing med spa over in Wading River. There's literally, I don't think anything that you can't get taken care of over there.
They're the best.
Yeah, I mean, like literally, I started like my peptides with them, the GHKCU pack a few weeks ago. And I'm like literally like in love. Like
that's so good.
Yeah. They have a lot going on over there. Nita and Dr. Ruttman are truly the best. They're so grounded and personable. So if you're looking, I see women online all the time and men as well. Listen, I go over there, I create content, I go to pick up stuff, and I see a lot of men also walking in there. So we're not speaking to just you. Don't be afraid to check them out. Balanced Health and Wellness in Wading River. And thank you for joining again, you guys. And we hope you have a great weekend ahead.
Yeah. See ya.
Bye.